All right, get in here. This is our first ever mailbag episode of Commotion. We ask for your questions and your thoughts and your feelings about Taylor Swift. And what am I supposed to do? Interrupt this chorus? I can't do that. Come on! This is Down Bad. The new album is the Torture Post Department. We're going to talk about the new album, but also this moment in Taylor Swift. This is an artist who's everywhere, and in the middle of all this ubiquity. She made an interesting choice, which is to make that ubiquity worse for all of us. She broke a bunch of records. She currently occupies the entirety of the top 10 of the Billboard 100. She's made some people mad. She's made some people happy. A lot of strong feelings about this record, and we're going to talk about all those strong feelings. If you're a regular listener, you know that I live and breathe this stuff. This is not stuff that is new to you. But we are going to get pretty deep into this. So this is not Taylor Swift 101. This is like Taylor Swift 325. We are third-year university Taylor Swift level conversation. And to do that, Emma Godmere is here. Amelia Eqbal is here. They're both producers that I love and adore. Emma and Amelia, how's everybody feeling? Hi.
So good.
You know what day it is? It's a day where we do this. We get deeply into this whole thing. Maybe, Amelia, you want to kick us off with our first question?
I absolutely do. Okay, let's start with the question from @AnitaChong9. We're going to be using handles here, everyone. So if Taylor Swift, quote unquote, puts narcotics into all of her songs, end quote, maybe they're just slow release ones. What does this say about the tension be the impulse for critics and fans alike to give hot takes on works of art that demand you don't just consume it, but live with it? Woo. That's a thinker.
Anita Chong with a fire question. I think we all three of us have the benefit of time when we're recording this conversation. The album's been out for like almost 2 weeks at this point. There is something about Taylor Swift's superstardom that rewards immediate engagement. Sort of. So I think there's like an incentive for internet publications to get into the Taylor Swift conversation kind of right away. You see, Rolling Stone within like 85 seconds flat after the album comes out, they're like, it's an instant classic. We're ready to sort of like declare this as an all-timer album. I think sitting where we are now, maybe a couple weeks later after the album's come out, a bunch of reviews look a little goofy. Like a bunch of reviews, at least to me personally, they look a little intensely in one direction or the other. I think like as with any Taylor album, there are things that you react to and you say, this is really working. And there are things that are like, this is not really working. And then there are the more interesting elements of a Taylor release, which is like, I can see what she was going for here, but also I'm not sure that it landed. And I wish you sort of tried it in this like other way. I think like she engenders that kind of conversation. And so to me, like there is this intense run to go like, we're going to react to Taylor Swift right away. And then some art demands that you kind of sit with it. Some art kind of demands that you kind of digest it a little bit. I think if you've only heard this album once, maybe the sameness of the sound washed over you, and you kind of go, I'm picking up on like not a lot of variations in sounds in this. I think this is an album that rewards maybe a couple of extended listens and closer listens, because it's true. There's no like anti-hero size banger on this album. I think we're kind of accustomed to Taylor being like, here's a banger, and also here's all the other songs. This album doesn't have that, but I think it does reward closer engagement, especially narratively, if you sort of are interested in engaging with that narrative. But Emma, what's your read on this?
I feel like that's a product of the time that we're in too, right? Like that's even outside of Taylor Swift. Like think back to, I don't know, decades ago when our parents or grandparents were like going out and getting a new vinyl record. Like there was no review that was coming out like midnight of the day that it came out that they could react to, right? Yeah. You had to spend time with it. You had to spend time with listening to that record and then having conversations about it. So I think that's very much the internet era as well. But I wonder if it's the same for you both. But for me, I would say every Taylor record has been a slow release for me. I will have different favorites that stand out on that first listen, right? That midnight listen. And then like other songs will sort of, I don't know, break through and like reveal themselves to me over time. And I think that's great.
No one is normal about a Taylor Swift release, which is to say like she does not often, get afforded the opportunity for something like catharsis. Like every release gets, like there's a string of lights around it, and people kind of go like, well, Taylor's released a new album and you must be measured, against the standards of what you believe an album to be. I think the first 16 songs to me sound like here's a musical idea that I'm working through. And then the rest, the anthology, sound like here are also some songs that I finished. And I actually genuinely think we have to contend with whether Taylor is moving to a different stage in her career. Amelia, we were talking about this yesterday a little bit, but like this notion of, you have directors who will put out a movie every 7 years, every 8 years. And then you have, pardon the analogy, but like Woody Allen will make a movie every single year. That's just a thing that he does. The creative output continues no matter what is happening. I think Taylor Swift is someone who's moving towards that, or at least that's how she creates, because like she's constantly creating music. That's how you end up with like 300 songs created since like Folklore came out, which is nuts. But the notion of the album then cannot continue to hold, right? Because like we sort of treat the notion of the album as like, here's a curated idea that is like sort of executed from beginning to end. And to me, the Tortured Poets Department is that idea. But then when you put the anthology on top of it, I'm like, this falls apart a little bit. And it feels like a play to juice the numbers a little bit. It feels, which as is her right to do. She's allowed to do that. But because she has juiced the numbers so much, and she's got the second highest debut week of all time. Only Adele has her beat on that front, like of all time. It worked. It worked on that front. But I'm not sure that it holds together as a musical idea. But also, I realize that as I'm Jess Lowe, our wonderful producer, is producing this conversation, is giving me this look like, man, we've spent 10 minutes on the first question, which means we're not going to get to any of the rest of the questions. So I small pin in this because it might come back again. Let's move on to question 2. Emma, do you want to take that one?
Yes. Okay. So the next question that came in is from @Julia Burnham. At this stage in her superstardom, do you think Taylor Swift will ever be able to release an album that is primarily received for its sound instead of the new contributions to her personal lore?
Oof.
Damn. Do you want to start with that, Amelia, while I gather some thoughts here?
I mean, the answer is no. I feel like that's pretty easy. Okay. Here's what I think.
Yeah.
For Taylor Swift to release an album that's just received for the music and is just judged on the merits of the music, she would have to do it anonymously. And we already know that is not something she's interested in doing, because we have the whole thing with This Is What You Came For from the 1989 era of 2014. I think it was like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Where she
wrote that song for Rihanna.
on that song,
Yeah.
Nils Stjolberg, R.I.P. him.
Yeah.
And
That was her fake name. Yes.
And the fans picked it out before she ever said that she was a co-writer on it, because they could hear her in the backing vocals of that track. Now, maybe the only reason they were able to catch that was because she was linked to Calvin Harris at the time as his partner. Yeah. Sure, maybe they wouldn't have caught it otherwise, but maybe they would have, because this fandom is there. But I just think, especially with the Reputation era, the first visual we saw was here lies Nils Stjolberg as well as Taylor Swift's Reputation. Yeah. Which says that, to me, a very clear sign from years ago that she has no interest in hiding her artistry and her artistic output. Even with the Red re-records, like Little Big Town had the song Better Man, and she reclaimed that. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see her ever giving up her name attached to her music anymore. And that's what it would take, I think, for her to actually just be judged on the sound, because even with folklore, we saw that she came out saying, this is all fictional. And people still said, but what if it wasn't? What if this is about this person? What if this is about this person? What if this is about this moment from your career? Did you think about that? Yeah.
You don't tell us what to do here, Taylor.
I really don't think it's possible.
Here's what I struggle with, is that like there's a tendency among the fans to do the thing that you just said, Amelia, which is go, this song is about Maddie Healy, this song is about Joe Alwyn, this song is about this specific incident. And what my frustration with that is that it often robs her of the opportunity to just put out a song, and you just sort of have the ability to assess a song as a song. Does this song do anything for you? But also, what we get a lot of this very specific album is that she's really struggling with this. Like, there's a real struggle with the degree to which she is beholden to the narrative that she has created. I think like she has a lot of fun with it, but also when it gets outside of the fandom and it gets to sort of like a larger cultural conversations, it feels like she's like really beholden to this. And to that end, actually, maybe we should play a bit of "But Daddy, I Love Him." Let's hear the what is my favorite line on the whole album. That'll tell you something about my good name part. Let's play this part. First of all, this lady's angry. Like this is an angry song. It's also, to my ears, to my humble ears, the best Taylor Swift song in maybe 4 albums. Like I hear "But Daddy, I Love Him" and I go, this is better than all of Midnight's. This is better than all of Folklore and Evermore. This is certainly better than all of Lover. I didn't mean that derisively, although it kind of came out derisively, and I stand by what I said. There is anger in the song. There is movement in the song in ways that you don't hear from her very often. And this is what I go to Taylor Swift for. I go to Taylor Swift for these like big pop songs that have these beautiful choruses, but also have like the striking, specific knife of a line. Like, I'll tell you something about my good name. It's mine alone to disgrace. She is contending, as she has always been contending, with how she's viewed publicly. Emma, what's your read on this? How do you think about the way that we judge a Taylor Swift song and a Taylor Swift album?
The fact that she puts out a whole package, right? Like, she is also very, like, along with the sound and the lyrics, she talks a lot about the visuals, right? Especially now that she's helming all of her music videos. Yes. She'll even talk about how the nail polish she uses and the outfits she wears at award shows and other places all tie into these eras. So, you know, for like the idea that we could just listen to an album based on just music alone, she's putting so much more. She's creating worlds out of each of these eras. That's the other thing. They're not albums anymore. They're eras.
Yeah.
Like, each of this is a different era. I think the other thing about the personal lore that's also really interesting is that, I mean, to your point, Elamin, about what fans and what observers choose or choose not to read into on the deeply personal side of things. Yeah. She is adding to her own lore on like a motif level and recurring metaphors level too. So even if you want to remove yourself, and even if, you know, we could have a separate conversation about that, about what, you know, what's within our right to sort of read into, but even if you move away the, what we know about relationships and whatnot, she's adding to these motifs with every work she puts out. Can I get super nerdy about one motif that has actually been blowing my mind?
This is why we're here. Let's go.
This is what we're here for. So we know motifs, like she uses colors, right? Red, blue, gold. Those have all come up. Cages and locks in terms of relationships and also the music industry. The one that has really surfaced for me with this record, but I realize has a through line through so many other records, is cars.
Oh.
Go on.
And join me for a moment here.
Following you down this rabbit hole. Go off.
Jump. The car door's open. Jump in. We're going. Jump in.
This getaway car. Let's go.
Into this getaway car. Here we go. So Fortnite, toward the end, that beautiful like combination of her voice and Post Malone's voice. Yeah. Buy the car you won't, but it won't start up till you touch me. Ooh. You want to go back to Reputation for a second with King of My Heart. Yeah. All the boys in their expensive cars with their Range Rovers and Jaguars never quite took me where you do. Yeah. Also, we see a couple of more. So like that, to me, there's a through line there. But also on Tortured Poets, Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, You Crashed My Party and Your Rental Car.
And Your Rental Car, yes. Yes. That's
right. Like I think there's a metaphor there. But the one that really stopped me in my tracks between Fortnite about, you know, buy the car you want, it won't start up till you touch me. Yeah. Cowboy Like Me off Evermore. Never wanted love, just a fancy car. Ooh. I have gone back to that song with a totally different perspective. And I think this plays into the lore that she builds herself.
Right.
Again, she's providing more context for these different motifs and references that she uses, so you're trying to say, like,
she's building a library in a sense, right? There's an
100%.
intertextuality to the music, which is to say, like, you can receive it as like, hey, here's a pop song to my ears, or you can do the thing that you just did and go like, there's a through line that runs through these songs, and she's regularly in conversation with herself, and also,
all the time.
That's the thing that we have taught her we want out of her, right, Amelia? Like, it's not like she came up with this and then everybody said, please stop. And, she was like, no, I'll keep doing it. Fans are interested in this. We play the vault games. We sort of, we engage with this imagery. We solve the puzzles, etc. Which is to say, this is its own kind of universe in a sense. And she kind of likes it that way.
Yes. Well, even Taylor Nation, like in promo for this album, the meme about you wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised me, they posted a photo carousel of all the different moments throughout this fandom's history of reading into images and posts and captions that she's posted over the years. Yeah. That really made me feel insane. I was like, oh my God, you're acknowledging that we've been in the trenches for this woman.
We're built different. We're built different. Yeah. Okay, we're actually like, so the reference that you're making, because it became a huge meme, that's from Who's Afraid of Little Me. Let's listen to that moment.
I wanna snarl and show you just how disturbed this has made me. You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised me.
That as a single line stands out. Not just the asylum where they raised me part, Emma, but I think like the idea that she wants to snarl, the notion that she is angry enough. This is not a position that we're used to. Again, we're used to Taylor Swift taking such a position. We are not going to get to any questions in this conversation because we just have a lot to say here. I'm so sorry to all. I'm holding in my hands dozens of questions. Are we ever going to get to them? No. But again, and it's because you hear her say, in But Daddy, I Love Him, use the phrase dutiful daughter. The idea that she has been in service to this construct of who Taylor Swift is. This is the first serious crack in the armor that she has created of her saying, A, I don't know if this is sustainable, and B, I don't know if you people, and by you people I mean the fans, but also I mean the people who are judge me all the time, are entitled to this much of me. I think like all of those are interesting things to do. I think those are all interesting things to do right now in the middle of a colossal worldwide tour that is the most successful tour of all time. This question has come in, which is, why now? Her current tour is already sold out. She's performing stuff from 4 albums that she's got a tour. Why another album? Why not wait until the tour is over, Amelia?
Oh, I mean, not to answer your question with another question, but why not? Literally, why not? I can't think of a reason. Why would you wait until the tour is over when clearly we've seen from some of her postings online that it looks like she's been planning all along to add it into the set list? That remains to be confirmed. Yeah. But it seems like this has been part of a bigger master plan for this Eras tour to incorporate this album cycle into the whole bit. But I don't see the drawback of releasing it now. I mean, she's at the height of her fame. Why not push it higher?
But this is
the only one who defines how high she can go at this point, because she shatters records left, right, and center. We're all just along for the ride.
Emma, what's your read? Why drop this album right now?
I come back to the catharsis piece. I think she dropped it 100% partly because she knows that, I mean, just look at how rabid the fans were for all of the vault tracks with all the re-records, right? The idea that you can dive into new lyrics that you've never heard before from your favorite singer. That's what a gift. So there's that for sure. But I really think there's a catharsis piece to this. She said from the stage at one of her Eras tour stops earlier this year, I believe, she said that writing this album, writing Tortured Poets, got her through a period of her life more than any other album ever did before, right? More than Red, more than Reputation. She said she needed this. And so again, coming back to that post that she had about, just to read a part of it here, an anthology of new works that reflect events, opinions, and sentiments from a fleeting and fatalistic moment in time, one that was both sensational and sorrowful in equal measure. Yeah. This period of the author's life is now over, chapter closed and boarded up. There's nothing to avenge, no scores to settle once wounds have healed. So that's her saying, I'm good, I'm done, but I don't want this hanging over me anymore. Like, let's get it out there and let's move on.
Right.
And I think that's the thesis of the Eras tour. is that we're putting all these eras out there one last time for everyone to enjoy, and then they're done. They're put to bed. We've been through it all multiple times over with a fine-tooth comb. This is just part of that.
Yeah, I think that the notion of like, hey, I'm going to come back to these songs and put them out after this whole tour is done, that seems crazy. You would just be a different person then. So why not put them out now? Okay, we really got to get to more questions because we got a lot to say. Amelia, do you want to take the next question?
Yes, this one from Chucky Louise says, I would love for someone who knows more to explain to me why the writing feels like lesser versions of things she's already written. And why do people on the internet blame Jack Antonoff?
Oh my God. The question as to why people on the internet blame Jack Antonoff. First of all, I'll start with that part of the question because I don't think it's fair that they do. I am someone who has followed Jack Antonoff's career for a minute. I'm interested in Jack Antonoff as a producer and as a musician. But as a result, I've seen his work on the Chicks album, and I've seen his work on the last Lorde album, and I've seen his work on the last Lana album. And you just cannot tell me that this is a producer who is actually like remaining in a stagnant place. I don't think he is. I think he is someone who shapes the work that is given to him based on the requests that are given to him. And like one of the conversations that you heard when that Lorde album came out was, someone asked Lorde, I think it was Joe Coscarelli of the Times, he asked Lorde, he was like, how much of this is Jack? And she was like, Jack does the thing that I need him to do, I think there's a real tendency to blame Jack because you see Jack's name come up again and you go like, wow, this is so many albums now with Jack. 1989, Reputation, Lover, Folklore, Evermore, Midnights. That's so many records that she's worked on him. Worked with him. But when I sort of think about Jack and this album, what I hear is safety. I hear that like there is a safety created in terms of like the partnership between Taylor and Jack. I hear that like if you need to get these songs out, you go to people that you know. And more to your point, Emma, the idea that this album being catharsis, it feels like, then you go to someone who like, you're like, get these out of me in whatever sort of shape and form they look like. They just didn't feel like the moment to go like, who's the next person I'm going to be working with? What does that look like? And so to me, that's where that is. I don't think it's Jack's fault. I think Taylor is specifically going to Jack and being like, we're going to stay in this sonic vicinity for a minute. I think when she changes sounds, it's going to be up to her. I think as to why the writing feels like lesser versions of things she's already written, I hear this most in like a song like The Albatross, for example. Like it's a song about, hey, here are all the pressures of dating me, Taylor Swift, and how difficult it is and how much that might ruin your life. She's already done that with Peace, and Peace is a much grander and much more accomplished version of that idea. Amelia is a #1 Peace girly in the world. I know that I see that about you. I know that you are. But like, To me, sometimes you revisit the idea because you're like, I'm trying to get at something a bit more, more emotionally articulate about it. I think it's true that these songs don't succeed in the same ways as some of the previous versions. But I don't begrudge her that. I'm just kind of like interested in being like, oh, what's the new thing that can maybe come out when you try to treat it in this way? And I think like when I hear The Smallest Man That Ever Lived, I go like, this is an interesting sonic take, like a new update, if you will, of the All Too Well treatment. Those two songs in my mind are doing the same thing. And it's The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is successful in entirely different ways than, All Too Well. And so I'm interested in her failures, but also I think someone else who's listening to this might go, hey, man, maybe you're letting her off the hook too much, to which I say, stay out of it. Emma, what's your take on this? Why do some of these songs sound like, you've kind of done this before, but this is a lesser version of this?
Well, I wonder if part of that comes back to the volume of songs and just like absorbing it all in a short period of time. Like you don't feel great when you, to use a word that Travis Kelce likes using, house a chocolate bar all in one go. It feels better when you eat it over a long period of time. So that's one thing. That's part of the perspective. I think I think there are. I'm also a Jack Antonoff fan for sure. Big fan of Bleachers since his first Bleachers album came out in 2014, the same year that 1989 came out. So yes, as you pointed out, Elamin, they've been working together for a long time. Yeah. And 100%, you can see and hear Jack Antonoff's fingerprints on many songs. Yeah. Out of the Woods on 1989 is an example. Yeah. Even I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. The synths in there, like that has Jack Antonoff's name all over it. Yes. But then you go to a song like, and I'd love to play this clip if we have it, Guilty as Sin, where you have Jack Antonoff bringing a very 90s vibe, a very stripped down percussive vibe into a song. We have that clip. Let's roll it right now. Guilty as Sin. Come on. Those drums, that percussion, like he's done that 90s sound. He's done that a few times on this album, right? Like So High School is a little bit of that vibe. Like those sounds end up showing up, and you go, this is interesting because it's a different sonic palette, and clearly like not the thing that Taylor sort of relies on Jack to do all the time, and he's capable of it. We know that he's capable of it. It's just like he's not being asked to do it right now. Also, Elamin, about having that safe space really for her to create a record like this, and something obviously that she's done over the last few records. I want to use the word convenience, although that sounds negative. Like I don't want there to be a negative connotation there too. Yeah. But I was thinking about this the other day. She also had to work in songwriting sessions and recording sessions in the middle of her Eras tour, like while she was not in another place on another continent. So, I mean, it's probably easy to call up your pal and be like, can we hit up Electric Lady? Like, let's go do this. It's probably easier to do that than to start up a whole new relationship with another producer. And she did. Amelia, do you want to ask question 6 right now? Because I think this is like a good moment to ask question 6.
Oh, I would love to.
Let's go.
So at the McMain wants to know.
M. McMain. Shout out M. Let's go.
Shout out M.
Yeah.
Even though Fortnite is the first single, several tracks are trending on TikTok or getting memed. Have we ever seen so many different tracks from an album get so much attention at the same time? And are lead singles still a valuable strategy for artists?
Ooh, are lead singles still a valuable strategy for artists? Most artists, yes. Taylor Swift, she's a little bit indifferent. You know, like it again, like we are talking about an artist who not all of the rules of gravity of the music industry apply to her. Some of them certainly do. She's got to have a single. She's got to service it to radio stations. She's got to, make a video. She's got to put that thing on YouTube in order to get that engagement. Do people engage with Taylor Swift singles the same way as they do other artists? I don't think so. I do think that, like, with Taylor, there will be lines that become memes, and she has a pretty good way of predicting which lines are going to become memes. And also, we are kind of, and I don't love this about this moment, but we are kind of in like a TikTok meme song economy right now. Like all the biggest songs on TikTok are songs that like have a specific phrase, and that's the phrase that becomes, what everybody shares. And you see this like right now with like Sabrina Carpenter and Espresso, and like the line "I'm working late because I'm a singer" has just become like this meme that you see people like sharing over and over again. And like a meme of a line in a song pushes a song higher and higher up. I do think some of these lines are becoming memed for bad reasons. For example, the line in the title track about how we declared Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist. People are like dunking on that line. I think that's a great line. I think that's a fantastic line, and I think that's a great song. That song is Taylor Swift sort of embodying what a 1975 song would sound like. Other people have made this point as well. If you're going to make a song about Maddie Healy, and then you should embody the songwriting style of Maddie Healy. This is, for example, a thing that Taylor Swift has done regularly before. Dear John is a song that sounds like a John Mayer song, and is directed directly at John Mayer. So there is a history of Taylor sort of being funny and adapting other people's personalities in order to write songs about them. And so to me, like when a line becomes a meme, it's usually intentional with her, and I like that it's usually intentional with her. But I'm always interested in like because she throws out a few of them, and you never really know which one the fandom is going to pick up on. Have there been any that surprised you this cycle, Emma? Have you been like, oh, I didn't expect this line to become like a memeable line, but people are talking about this so much?
I guess I didn't expect it to happen across so many songs. But again, we just saw she just took over the top 10 in the Billboard Hot 100.
Yes.
Which is something that she did with Midnights as well, right?
She's the only artist to do it, and she did it 2 times back to back, two albums back to back. She's all of the top 10, but yes. All
of the top 10, and 100% no one else has done that. However, I was looking back over some Billboard history, and in recent years, one of the biggest examples that came to mind was Drake with Scorpion in 2018. He occupied, I think, 4 to 6 slots on the top 10.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, to your point, like this is a way that the industry is moving as well, right?
Yeah.
There are artists who like really want to make that happen, and there are artists like Drake and Taylor Swift who can make that happen. The memeability of lyrics, that's just what is unfolding on the internet right now, and I do wonder if I think outside of the internet, she 100% Taylor Swift writes a lot of those lyrics with a smile on her face and a bit of tongue in cheek, and then maybe she's like, "Well, we'll see where this goes." But I 100%. There are a lot of tongue in cheek lyrics on this album.
Yeah, I think like we should not foreclose the possibility that Taylor Swift is trying to be funny, because I think she's trying to be funny a lot on this album, and we don't give her the credit for at least trying that, Amelia. And I'm not really ever sure why that is. Like, we see other artists get afforded the possibility of like, hey, they're being funny sometimes. We don't give that opportunity to Taylor. What's your read on this?
She's too earnest. She is historically too earnest that she's not let us see her funny. Yeah. And she even told us in All Too Well that she's never been good at telling jokes, or she's internalized this fear that she's never been good at telling jokes. So to me, to see her actually trying to be funny and like embracing that side of her and letting it show, very exciting. Kudos to you, Mama, I guess. For spilling.
She spilled.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to take a quick pause here. We have more Taylor Swift questions to take, but in the meantime, let's take a quick break. All right, we are back. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. And look, this is a special edition mailbag episode. This mailbag episode is all about Taylor Swift and the Torture Poets Department. Emma Godmere is here. Amelia Eqbal is here. You guys, we got more questions. Amelia, do you want to do the next one?
I would love to.
Let's go.
So here's a great question from @Amberly McAteer.
Oh, love Amberly. Hi, Amberly. Yes, continue.
It goes, why are we still talking about Kim K in a song? I was so disappointed in that decision, and to bring her daughter into the lyrics just feels so 2015. And Tay is in another universe than K. Let it go.
Let it go. First of all, no one has ever succeeded in life telling Taylor Swift to let anything go. That is not a mission that you want to participate in. Here's the thing that I feel about that song. But the idea of Thank You, Amy. Thank You, Amy is a song that works for me. I like that song. The reason I like that song is because even though it is a song that is clearly directed at Kim Kardashian, it is the first time in Taylor Swift's recorded music, possibly since Long Live, but really just in general, where we've seen Taylor step back and go, look at everything that I've built. And it's genuinely a lovely moment to hear her say, I've built something. During this whole time where you were saying, hey, you make really corny music, look at the thing that I've created. And you actually get a sense from that song of Taylor stepping back and like kind of assessing everything that is happening and saying, yes, this wouldn't happen without you, Kim Kardashian. Well, she doesn't name Kim Kardashian because Taylor Swift does not name names in these songs. But she says, like, this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the thing that we went through, because it clearly, like, pushed her name into more people's faces, and it created a larger conversation about Taylor Swift, and maybe not the conversation she was looking to have during the Reputation era, right? I don't think anyone was like spoiling for that particular fight, and the way that unfolded. But the way that, Amberly's question frames Taylor Swift as dragging Kim's daughter into this, I don't think that's quite what the line was. I think the line was, about this like kind of surreal moment where you see Northwest, Kim Kardashian's daughter, posting a TikTok dancing to a Taylor Swift song. And if you're Taylor, you kind of like, that's a bit of a wild moment, right? Like I had a very public fight with your mother a few years ago. And then now we are at this place where like you love my music and your mom has to listen to my music all the time because you're playing it. And you just have to pretend like you don't know that the line that you just heard is actually about you, which is a very interesting and fascinating flex. And I think like, to me, that's like, there's no greater declaration of I've won than that. If you're looking for Taylor to stop saying I've won, you've come to the wrong artist, I think. I also think that like, this is what I go to Taylor Swift for. I go to Taylor Swift for petulance. I go to Taylor Swift for brattiness. I go to Taylor Swift for emotions that like aren't always savory, but she gives them like a very excellent treatment. So Thank You, Amy, to me is a very successful song that I genuinely love listening to. I think it's like one of the best ones on the anthology. That's where I stand on Thank You, Amy. Amelia, you made a face when I said I really genuinely love Thank You, Amy. Do you wanna make your face into words?
I just don't think we're talking about petulance enough these days. I really don't think we're giving it the credit it deserves.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more airtime given to airing grievances.
I agree. Shout out petulance. Emma, what's your vibe on Thank You, Amy?
It stands out sonically as one that I really enjoy on the anthology, just because it breaks up some of the like lower, more somber Aaron Dessner produced songs. Yeah. But I have seen some feelings from the fans, or fans sort of wrestling with this feeling of how we should feel about this. Yeah. I don't know if I've landed on one side or another on this. Whether you need this
or not. Yeah.
Yeah, but or like whether it's appropriate or inappropriate for her to, bring up an issue that we know that she's had a long time ago. But what I was struck with is when you're at a low point, which it was clear that she was at when she was writing the lion's share of this album. Yeah. When you're at a low point and when you're thinking about the things that you've done and the things that have happened to you, and these are things that we know she thinks a lot about, right? Yeah. She talks about insecurity as well a lot. When you're at a low point, you're thinking about all the other low points in your life, right? So I think in that spirit, it makes sense to me. It doesn't seem outlandish that she would go back to this, and incorporate it into a song. But I will say I do have space for the fans and the listeners who are kind of wondering about whether feels right. But again, whether we still need this, but again, maybe this is her closing the door on that once and for all.
And let's not forget, she's currently re-recording Reputation, Taylor's version, or at least she will have recently re-recorded it. You would be in that headspace. You would be in the headspace of like the songs and the emotions and the stories that invited and called forth Reputation. And I'd imagine you'd be in a slightly different emotional space in that. Okay. Emma, do you want to do the next question, my friend?
You might have thoughts on this one, which we got from Dan Meads. How should the parents of 8 to 12-year-old girls navigate the themes in this album? Which really does feel like a question about her kind of whole discography at this point, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a question I struggle with. I'm not going to lie to you. Taylor, first of all, she has a couple ways of telegraphing that she's gotten older. They mostly revolve around swearing and drinking. As she's gotten older, like her songs reference alcohol a little bit more. On this album, she references sex a little bit more than she used to before. There's a masturbation song on this record. We haven't heard that before from Taylor. And also the drinking. I don't know if I would leave my daughter unattended to a Taylor Swift album, by which I mean we tend to engage with music together. Like we have a sort of a policy in the car where whatever song we're playing, and this is not just limited to Taylor Swift songs, but whatever song we're playing, she can say, "Hey, what is the song about?" And I will pause the song and then answer the question. I think to me that's the way that you ferry your child across this particular era of Taylor Swift. I will also say she is a little bit frustrated. Again, this has come up, a couple of times on some of the songs on this record, on this idea of representing purity for a lot of people, representing that like, oh, this is the role model, this is the musician whom you should always be playing for your kids, and the ways that cages her. And Is she pushing back out of it? I'm not really sure, but she's certainly articulating that there are limits here. There are limits to how much you can live your life with accordance to, what parents should be able to introduce their 8 to 12-year-old children to. I think as an artist, what I appreciate about your question, Dan, is that it doesn't seem to sort of begrudge her growing. But I think like if you have a young kid, to me, music and engagement with music is the same as engagement with television shows and movies, which is to say that like there are so many themes coming at children and they're really good at picking them up. And so it should be like a shared experience. That's how I'm navigating it. And so like a good example of this is like my daughter is a big fan of Fortnite. She loves, not the game, the song, the first song on this album. But then, my wife, Emily, like she was listening with her to Down Bad, the song that we started this podcast with. And maybe like halfway through the first verse, because my daughter likes to read the lyrics on the Spotify thing as she's listening, she just like turned to Emily and she was like, I don't think this song is for me. And then she just was like, she just kept it moving. She just kept it going to the next song. I appreciate that about her. I appreciate that she's like, maybe I'm not ready for some of these themes yet. And that's fair. And so I hope that your children are kind of like that. Otherwise, you got to get a little more involved. Amelia, do you want to do the next question?
So Matt Camera wrote in this question. Courtney Love and Neil T. of Pet Shop Boys both recently gave similar assessments of Taylor's music. That it's good, but that it's not necessarily innovative. Something that 20th century pop music especially was lauded and is remembered for. Is that true?
Well, geez, Mac, thank you so much for the easy question, dude. Is that true? Is she less innovative than her peers? I don't think that's a fair assessment of her discography. I think it might be a fair assessment of this moment in Taylor Swift. I don't think she has been pushing the boundaries of pop the way that she once was. So, when I think back to Red, and then I think back to 1989 and her jump and her move from country music to pop music, I think she was genuinely doing some really interesting stuff. I think the idea of Jack Antonoff as a mega pop producer, first of all, that doesn't immediately compute in your brain. Like you don't immediately go like, Jack Antonoff, this guy is going to be the king of pop in one moment. But the combination of Jack and Taylor worked really well, and they created some like genuinely magical pop music moments. I think is she as innovative right now in this moment in her career? No, I think she's commercially innovative, which is to say this lady knows how to part you and your money. Like she knows how to figure, how you're going to buy a different color vinyl this week than you did last week with the same songs. She knows how to organize a tour in such a way that you're going to engage with all aspects of the tour and how to monetize it. We haven't seen an artist like Taylor Swift when it comes to commercial appeal. I just don't think, and I say this knowing full well the history of popular music. I didn't knowing full well that people are going to be like, do you want to talk about Michael Jackson for a moment? I'm like, I do, but do you want to talk about Taylor Swift for a moment? Because I do think that like, given the constraints on popular music in the 21st century and the challenges that streaming have given us, she has invented and reinvented herself again and again and again to position herself as just like this wildly successful pop music machine. I love the songs. You don't have to like sit around and go like, this is pushing pop in a direction it's never been pushed before. I also don't look to Taylor Swift to do that. Like that is not the artist that I'm turning to Taylor Swift for. I just really like these songs. I really like the way that she knows her structure around a pop song. I think of a song like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, which is like this like devastatingly sad song, which like, hey, can we play a bit of I Can Do It With a Broken Heart?
Real tough kid, I can handle my shit. They said, babe, you gotta fake it till you make it, and I did it. Lights, camera, bitch, smile, even when you wanna die. He said he loved me all his life, but that life was too short. Breaking down, I hit the floor. All the pieces of me shattered as the crowd was chanting more.
Look, it takes a pretty good awareness of the mechanics of popular music to structure a song that is so devastatingly sad that, like, by the time that she gets to all the pieces of Me Shadow while the crowd was chanting more, you don't know whether to chant more and be more complicit in her shattering or whether to withhold that or not. I think, like, she's really good at having these conversations and making you think about that. And I love that about her music. I think she's a discursive artist. I think she's an artist who, like, makes you think about music in an interesting and fun way. I don't think sonically she's invented or reinvented any of the wheels. I think she's kind of mastered them. Emma, am I missing anything from that answer?
Personally, as a fan, I flock to her music because of how her lyrics burrow themselves inside me sometimes. And as someone who is, 4 months apart from her in age, it's that I feel like we're seeing things on the same level. I'm not flocking to her music because I feel like it is innovative. And does pop music need to be innovative to be embraced and respected and celebrated? You brought up Michael Jackson as well. And I did want to mention that the Neil Tennant of Pet Shop Boys, I think part of his comment that he was making about Taylor Swift was him saying, where are the famous songs? Like, where's Taylor Swift's Billie Jean? Yeah. And I would also argue, like, how many people out there would be like, when I think Michael Jackson, I think Billie Jean. Like, he also had so many songs to choose from. And it also, like, I think we're going to be thinking a lot in future years about Cruel Summer, which was resurrected from, like, 3 or 4 years in the past. Yeah. And songs like Anti-Hero as well. So
it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. At tea time, everybody agrees. I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror. It must be exhausting, always rooting for the anti-hero.
Anti-Hero, I think, is the song that I would be like, please have a look at this. And the way that she's sort of pushing pop music forward in this way, again, it does not have to be this like, oh, I see what you're doing. You are subverting the entire structure of the way that pop music sort of presents itself. She's not that kind of artist. She's not even trying to aspire to be that kind of artist, nor is it what I think most of her fans look to her for. Okay, let's do question 12, shall we? Do you want to do it, Emma?
Our last question is from Katie A. Davey. Shout out, Katie. What is next for Taylor? When everyone else seems to be pivoting to major country moments, etc., Taylor doesn't. What is next for Taylor? A
big ol' so much of that question is like, hey, is she done with Jack Antonoff and Aaron Dessner, bro? Like, is she going to go find new producers? Because this is the question that I get the most often. And in fact, like, one person who listens to the show regularly sent me this message and she was like, don't put my name out there as a person asking this question, please. However, when is she going to be done with Jack Antonoff and Aaron Dessner? First of all, like Miley Cyrus, for Taylor Swift, country music is always going to be there. It's always going to, it's the retirement plan. It's the, ramp down your career slightly moment plan, which is to say that, like, they can always slip into a country mode and do it perfectly and do it well. It's in their bones. It's how they came up. So this is not the moment. I think in this particular moment, it would feel like a turning back. It would feel like a sort of a going back to a comfortable place in a moment where I would expect her to go like, okay, let's push further and further outwards. I would like to see her sort of try out different names when it comes to producers. Who are the different names that you could see? I would like her to go, work with Joe Little, the person who like worked with Lorde for a couple of her first albums, because I think like Taylor and Joe Little did work together. I think he maybe made You Need to Calm Down. Yeah, he was on Lover.
I was going to say
I would love to see her work with. She'll never work with Dan Nigro, I don't think. But Dan Nigro responsible for Olivia Rodrigo and Chappell Rowan. And it would be so interesting, I think, to see what Dan Nigro would do with the Taylor Swift. The person I'm dying for Taylor Swift to work with is Kid Harpoon. Kid Harpoon is the person who made the Harry Styles songs you know and love. He's the person who made Harry's House. Kid Harpoon has got a really interesting texture as a producer. I think he would like just bring out a different side of Taylor. When I listen to this album, there are moments that I genuinely really, really love. Can we play Loss of My Life? LOML. Let's just hear a little bit right now.
In your suit and tie, in the nick of time, you low down boy, you
Genuinely a devastating song. I love the construction of everything about the song. But what I love most about that song, I can't tell if I can see Emma Godmere slightly tearing up as we just listen to that bit of LOML, which is it's a devastating song. Her singing is so beautiful in this song that like I kind of forget that she is such a gorgeous singer when she's not trying to do like the big sort of pop bombast thing. And there's a lot of big pop moments on this record, and I love like a lower register Taylor Swift moment. I love all those things, but in this, like, I'd love to hear someone like a Kid Harpoon who can bring out the most beautiful singing out of a person and say, we're going to spend some time on, like, what is you at your most gorgeous singing? Because, like, let's not forget, she's also a singer. That is a part of the job here, you know? And someone who can kind of remind her of those, like, really beautiful early vintage Taylor Swift moments. The moments on Fearless, the moments on Speak Now, where you react to the voice, because like this is not a singer who has a broad, giant range, but the thing that she does so well is like fill a phrase with so much emotion. And I think like there are moments on this album that I'm like, this is really gorgeous. I wish we had more of this. And LOML is like peak of that for me. And so, Emma, I don't know. What about you? Like, what's the next thing that you're looking for Taylor to do?
Quick sidebar. Like, to me, like, I hear White Horse whenever I hear that song.
Yes.
Like, there's like, the piano, it's the same. It's so beautiful. So maybe that's why I was getting a little misty-eyed.
Yeah.
What's next? I mean, I appreciate something that Amelia brought up earlier when you were talking about her eras, that it feels like she is saying, here's everything I've done. I could absolutely see her taking another like 3 years off and going totally dark, going underground. The Eras tour is done. The re-records are done. And like, here's a reset. Like, I'm going to go hang out in Kansas City, Missouri for the next couple years and just like go have
just
fun.
Do this.
And then, it's entirely possible. I think she's setting herself up for a period where that could be possible. Yeah. But we would be kidding ourselves if we could ever try to predict the next steps of one Ms. Taylor Swift, because we also know she plans things out many years in advance. Who knows what could be around the corner? But I think a reset, which 100% Elamin could come with more time and space to try different things, to connect with different artists, connect with different producers. I could totally see that up ahead. But also maybe she extends her Eras tour to 2026.
It's crazy. It could go either direction. Amelia, Eqbal, do you want to take a stab at what's next, do you think?
Yes. And to be clear, like Emma said, Taylor knows what's next. We are all just playing catch up on her 10-year plan. Yeah. I really think, though, that from here, it's total domination. It's not just music industry domination. I think there's already been rumors or confirmed that there's a movie somewhere rattling around in her brain. And we know that she has the director bug already in her. So I really think we're going to see her doubling down. And especially, I think that quote from a Miss Americana where she says, as long as people will tolerate me being successful, I think she's hyper aware because of what she's been through publicly in the industry, that people are reaching peak, like, I'm kind of sick of hearing from you. So I don't know after the Eras tour wraps if we'll see her, but we will still get her output, I think, as her behind the camera. In other projects. So whether that's more music video directing, whether that's films as well, or screenwriting, or I'm sure there's a book or like 3 manuscripts, literal manuscripts somewhere on her hard drive. So I think she's going to branch out into other areas of art that allow her to be kind of still in the driver's seat, but not in our faces.
We have to leave it here, and I'm very upset about this because we should do this for another hour, but they need the studio, so I got to get out of this place. Emma Godmere, Amelia Eqbal, you guys are the best. This has been my favorite Taylor Swift conversation. Thank you so much for doing this. I hope for people who listen to this conversation, you kind of go, maybe I went a little bit too deep and these people are crazy and I should never engage with a Swiftie on this level ever again. I think that's the impression people are going to get away with. And if they do, that's okay with me. I appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to go out on the chorus of But Daddy, I Love Him, because that's the song. It has the juice. Let's go out on it.
Running with my dress unbuttoned, screaming, but Daddy, I love him. I'm having his baby. No, I'm not, but you should see your faces.
Big thanks again to Emma Godmere and Amelia Eqbal for going so deep into the universe of Taylor Swift with me. If you loved it, you can go to Spotify or Apple, subscribe to the Commotion podcast, and also follow us on Instagram. We are at CommotionCBC. Listen, we got a lot of wonderful questions about Taylor Swift. We could have done this conversation for 4 hours if they let us have the studio, but they said, apparently, we got to leave. We got to cut it off after a certain amount of time of talking about Taylor Swift. But if you go onto Instagram, we are at CommotionCBC. There's a bunch of clips from this conversation and many others. And hey, you clicked play on this, and that is unfortunately your fault. Thank you so much for hanging with us. You're the best. Go listen to the album. Go let me know what you think, what your favorite tracks are. We'll talk again soon.
Performing soliloquies I'll never see, thinking it can change the beat of my heart when he touches me and counteract the